is all of these examples that we spoke about, right? It's mostly to do with luck and success when it comes to career or sports or whatever it is, right? Okay, I was trying to reflect on my past and see if, hey, have I gotten lucky? Just sitting down, thinking about stuff and being honest, to identify, all the big things that happened in my life and what part did luck play in it. When I thought about luck, the main thing that came to my mind is I kind of felt I really got lucky with meeting the right people at certain intervals of my life. So let me be specific. Towards the end of fourth grade, there was this other classmate, right? And I was walking with my dad in our neighborhood, and this kid who was this other classmate, he recognized me and said, "Hey, you're this Subu kid, right? You're my class. I'm your classmate." And I was a shy guy, so I would never, even if I had seen him, I wouldn't have gone and said hi. So he and his dad were, I remember they were washing the car. So he told, "Oh yeah, you're my classmate. I mean, we have never spoken before. It's my birthday tomorrow, and I'm throwing a party at home. Why don't you come over?" My dad was like, "Yeah, sure. You know what? I'll bring him over. Don't worry. He's a shy kid, but I'll bring him over." So that started, so that I think happened completely accidentally. I was coming off like a bad friendship, which was really with my first friend, and I accidentally meet this guy, and for the next 4 years, right? So this guy Pradeep, I mean, he became a very close friend. We used to hang out a lot, and he was really good for me. I mean, the best way to describe him, he really had initiative. He was a very excited kid, and because of he was the captain of our local cricket team. Because of him, I made other. He was the sort of guy who would just show up every week and say, "Hey, I met this new guy. Let's go hang out at his house."
Oh, nice. Just what you needed at the time.
Exactly, right? So that's what I needed. And so because of him, I ended up making a whole bunch of friends, started playing games. He was really big into in generally computer games. He had this console where he played Street Fighter a lot. He exposed me to that. And then, every other weekend, like I said, right, he would meet this guy, say, "Hey, I met this new friend here, and he has this really kick-ass music system, which has a 5 CD changer. Let's go check it out."
Wow, 5 CDs.
5 CD changer, right? So it's sort of dating ourselves there. Hanging out with him meant I also hung out a lot with his family, and he was brought up in a with very good habits kind of thing. You greet people when you meet them. You're wearing a clean shirt and a clean pant when you go out. They had a family friend called Uncle Bob, who used to come every now and then from Canada, who used to bring this 1.4 MB discs with games in it. And from there, so we went from Street Fighter. We used to play. He had this 486 machine, right? And we used to play a ton of Commander Keen and Dangerous Dave and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think through him, right? I mean, because of him, I essentially started playing cricket. And he had this habit of celebrating everything. I mean, I'm sure we were all kids. I'm sure he didn't really notice he was doing this. That was just his personality.
You mean celebrating what?
Celebrating sense. So when we would play cricket, right, and say if I took a good wicket or you made a good catch, he would come and say, "Oh my God, Subbu, that is the best. Man, you really kick ass at bowling." So, I wouldn't have otherwise believed that I'm a good bowler if not for this positive sort of reinforcement. And then I kind of think, "Oh yeah, you know what? I think I am good at it." And all of this sort of triggered this belief that, "Oh, I can be good at something." From fourth grade until eighth grade, we hung out a lot. And through that, a lot of his good habits rubbed off on me, and I think I developed my own identity through those 4 years. And his influence, thinking back, I think his influence is pretty clear because at eighth grade he moved out of the school we studied at, and he went out of town. We went to a different city, and I don't remember anything that happened in ninth grade.
Wow.
Right? It was very uneventful. I don't remember anything that happened. And then after eighth grade, the next thing I really remember is when we started hanging out in 10th grade.
Yeah.
Right. So there was clearly a gap of a year, right? So where this good friend moved away. And then after that, I ended up meeting you. And that was also under sort of strange circumstances. From 10th grade onwards, all the way through undergrad, we used to hang out a lot. I spent a lot of time with your family, your mom, dad, and grandparents. And since your family was so musically oriented, a guy like me who never listened to any music developed an interest in drums. And being a drummer has since college become like a big part of my personality. Even today at work, people sort of know, oh yeah, so yeah, Subu, he's the drummer kind of a thing. So these friends I met at opportune times in my childhood and young adult days sort of shaped my identity to a large extent. So I think that's where luck sort of ended up playing a big role in my life.
Yeah, it's a nice story. I remember similarly, when we were studying to go into those very famous Indian Institute of Technology, IITs, to do our undergraduate education and all that, I was pretty certain actually that I would get in and I would go to one of these premier institutes. My grade still then was supportive of that hypothesis anyway. But turns out when the moment came, the exact subject I flunked out on was physics, which is strange because almost for the rest of my life after that, in grad school and even at work, I do some form of physics now anyway. So physics has become my life. But funnily, I failed out exactly what I was going to do in the future for the rest of my life. So I was pretty upset about that whole thing at the time. I remember clearly I was really distraught for a couple of years, even because it just went against like so many things that I believed I would be doing, right? Now, in hindsight, if you look at it, if I were going to go to a different university, especially one of
Yeah.
these, I would have to move out of town. So if I moved out of town, I would have never met the rest of the bandmates that you and I played with uh, and had a greatest time of our lives
Yeah.
up
The best,
till we were like,
probably the best years of our lives.
right? Best years of our
Yeah,
lives.
the undergrad, Bachelor of Engineering, undergrad days. Yeah,
Yeah, till we were what,
best years.
22, something like that,
Right. Yeah.
18 to 22. Because the other musicians came from the university you went to and the university I went to, or rather the colleges we went to.
The colleges. Yeah.
Yeah. So that became a big part of our lives, which it still is today as we fondly look back on it. And through that whole process is how I met my current spouse and better
Yeah.
half, right? Because she was going to interview our band.
Right. She was the traveling journalist who interviewed our band.
The traveling journalist, roadie, and general provider of snacks
Right.
and beer money because she never used to drink. So she used to have a lemonade and then split the bill equally with us when we had tons of
A
beer.
million beers.
And
Right.
so she had the most expensive lemonade in the world. Yeah. So it's because of the whole thing that I did not go to that university, which seemed like really bad luck at the time. Maybe it wasn't luck. I wasn't very good at physics. But now that's what is set up my life today, right? I mean, now I have two kids, a happy life. I did go on to do a lot of physics.
Because of that happy accident.
Yeah.
Of not getting into IIT.
Of no happy accident of failing. Yeah, it turned out to be pretty great because I still do the physics I do. I don't think it really affected my career in any way. I'm still happy at what I do at my work. I do consider myself lucky now in hindsight, even though at that moment it seemed like a really big axe had fallen on my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So some things you can only tell in hindsight.
Yeah. 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 And it's nice. It's good to recognize this kind of a thing in hindsight, I think.
Because what seems to you today something really untoward and unexpected oftentimes plays out in ways you can't imagine at the moment. It takes time to tell you that.
Yeah, and it's like I remember my mom. Every time I send her a video of my band playing or something or a piece of music that we composed, she would always ask. She'll always ask me. No one in our family, like even ancestors, nobody really had any musical inclination. And how the hell did you get so deep into music? It was very clear because once we started hanging out, and I used to hang out a lot at your place, all that was there in your house was music. Your dad in his 50s started learning violin, practically Pink Floyd playing on the music system all day long.
Yeah, I've been listening to Pink Floyd since I was 3 months old.
3 months. Oh, there you go. And then you and your dad would play dual guitars on Wish You Were Here, and you're singing with harmonies, and all this was going on one side of the house, and on the say the second floor of the house, and on the first floor of the house your grandmom is singing beautifully some Carnatic song, and then your house is always filled with a ton of music. And I mean, it's obvious like how all of this soaked into me, and I picked up an instrument, and it became such an important part.